Salam. All opinions are my own. In the end, only God knows best. A little while ago, a pro-Israeli person on TikTok challenged me to read a pro-Israeli book, which is fair enough because I usually only read books that are pro-Palestinian. And the book that he recommended was The War of Return, and it's terrible. If you don't want to listen to the rest of the video, I do not recommend reading it. But if you do want to know more about what I thought about it, I actually wrote a 5,000 word review of it on my blog. You can ask me in the comments for a link to it if you want. But here I want to summarize two really, really horrible things from the book, and one hopeful thing, actually, at the end, so that we can end off on a positive note. The first horrible thing is really kind of a good summary of what is wrong with the entire Zionist project and the entire Zionist ideology. And that is, the book is called The War of Return, and when it talks about the Palestinian desire for returning to their home, it's treated as a desire which is not a completely natural human desire. Like if you're kicked out of your home, if you're forced out of your home, you want to go back. That's not what this book believes. This book honestly, truly seems to believe that the Palestinian desire to go home is driven entirely by a desire to destroy Jewish rights of self-determination. And it's kind of delusional, because the only way you can believe that to be true is, first, if you conflate the idea of Jewish self-determination with the requirement of having a Jewish ethno-majority on this land of Palestine. This is nonsense right at the face of it, because self-determination doesn't require having a majority. The second thing that is wrong with this is that it doesn't treat Palestinians as human beings. Now, Palestinians are mentioned in the book all the time. Palestinians are even quoted in the book, but they're not treated like regular human beings with regular human desires. Instead, they're treated like these anti-Semitic Terminator type beings that are driven slowly by hatred of Jewish people. It's dehumanizing, to say the least. The second terrible thing that I want to talk about this book is the fact that it has worked in its objective. The person who recommended this book, I don't think realized that me, as a person who believes in Palestinian humanity and believes that the Palestinian desire to go back to the homes that they were forced out of and are prevented returning to by the state of Israel, is completely and totally legitimate. I'm not the target audience of this book. This book, it only works for people who already believe that the Palestinian desire to go home and the existence of Palestinians in the land of Palestine is a problem to be solved, instead of the only just solution to the whole mess. In fact, the core audience of this book is not only people who don't believe Palestinians to be human or just believe that Palestinian existence on Palestine is a problem, but specifically this book is for people in the West who believe Palestinians are a problem and have influence over Western governments and Western power centers. And it is in those places that it has worked, because the central obsession of the book is not only that the Palestinian right to return is a problem to be solved, but also that the one concrete policy step that they want to see happen in service to this terrible goal is the destruction of UNRWA. Because they believe, this book makes the case, and we've seen this in Zionist propaganda. Maybe this is the first book that did this, or maybe this book is the first one to crystallize it. I don't know, or maybe it's been around for a long time. But the idea in here is that it's because of the creation of UNRWA that the Palestinian people didn't just kind of dissipate. The phrase that really horrified me in this book that they used is social cohesion, where they said that it's because of UNRWA, essentially, that the social cohesion of the Palestinians was maintained, and which is, for them, for the authors of this book, which are two Israeli thinkers, this is a bad thing. because what they wanted instead is for the Palestinians to be kicked out, forced out, and to kind of dissipate into the Arab world and lose their identity. And that, honestly, it's horrific. I mean, again, if you take a step back and you realize what they're saying, it is horrifying. And I think it's indicative of, and this is one of the good things about the book, it kind of really, really does a very good job of illustrating the deep and ugly delusion that is at the heart of Zionist ideology, and that is that the Palestinians are not human, and a lot of Zionists would agree with that. The Palestinians are not human, but the subtle, more liberal way of saying that is that the Palestinians aren't civilized enough, or the Palestinians are driven by a deep hatred because of their culture or their education. That is the kind of moderate way of describing Palestinians in a way that makes it impossible for civilized people like Jewish people to live together with them, with Palestinians being possibly the majority. This deep and ugly view of, and bigoted view of Palestinians and Arabs and Muslims in general, basically it's all mixed together, is what justifies the state of Israel's horrific and ugly actions, each against the Palestinian people. And the reason that I say that this has worked is because Western governments keep on going after UNRWA. I am Canadian. I live in Canada, which is a vassal state of the United States of America. And here in February 2025, the fact that Donald Trump just wants to make it official has made us Canadians really unhappy about it, which, might help us break free of American influence, I hope, and be more independent and self-reliant. But Canada was one of the countries that, in concert with the United States of America, defunded UNRWA. And the justifications that were given for the defunding of UNRWA are a mirror of what this book proposes. This book has done its job in terms of introducing this idea and solidifying this idea in America and American allies that UNRWA is a problem, or at least in a lot of places that have influence. And that influence led to Canada, for example, defunding UNRWA. Which leads me to the point of hope. Because while Canada in January 2024 did defund UNRWA, the outcry against this action was so deep and so intense that by March 2024, the Canadian government walked it back. The biggest point of hope in all of this is that this demonstrates not only the delusion that Zionist ideology has, but also that the limits of the Israeli ability to influence Western policy. It only took 2 months. Within 2 months, Canada backed off. Now, since then, Canada has done other things, of course, because we are a vassal state of the United States of America, for all intents and purposes, like I said. But Israel does not have the influence it had. All the things that we're doing, it's working. And all we have to do is keep pushing. We can't let up, and I don't think we will.